Welcome to the Probate Nurse Podcast. I'm Melanie, your host. Thanks so very much for joining us today. On this channel, we dive into the heart of issues affecting our beloved seniors and the businesses that are dedicated to serving them. From navigating senior transitions and downsizing to ensuring comfortable aging in place, we explore a multitude of topics, including home care, estate planning, probate issues and situations, and so much more. Please join us each week as we shine the spotlight on the professionals and stories that are shaping the landscape of senior care. Because here on this channel, compassion meets expertise. So this week we're joined by a very special guest and a friend of mine, the Probate PI, attorney Michael Zwick. He's the owner of Assets International. So Assets International specializes in finding missing heirs and other beneficiaries, as well as owners of closed bank accounts, oil, gas, and other mineral rights, and they reunite them and the assets to people that didn't even realize that they had missing assets that were available. As a licensed and fully bonded private investigation agency, they have successfully recovered millions of dollars for corporations and individuals and have located many missing relatives and unknown heirs on behalf of families and estates. Using proven investigative techniques combined with an individualized approach to customer service, Assets International is the industry leader. So let's dive in and learn more about the fascinating work that Michael does. Please welcome to the Probate Nurse, everybody. This channel focuses on senior transitions, estate planning, and probate situations and solutions. And we drop a new episode every Thursday at 2 p.m. Eastern on YouTube, so I hope that you join us for that. And so today we have a very, very special guest with us today, attorney Michael Zwick, and he's also known as the Probate PI. So welcome, Michael. Thanks so much for joining us.
I'm so glad to be here, Melanie. Always a pleasure to see you.
Always good to see you too. Even if it's an hour away, we're all good. Michael's in Orlando and I'm in Tampa. So,
yeah. And that was after living an hour away in Michigan.
yeah, we have that route too. I'm telling you, that is really cool. You're over in Huntington Woods, I believe, and I was in Redford Township, Livonia. So I know we were
so
close by.
An hour. Yes.
Yeah, and it took this to kind of bring us together, which is awesome. And I'm so glad we did. So yeah, welcome. And I would kind of dive in. A lot of people are curious, what is a probate PI? And, we know that you're an attorney. So how does that work? Give us a little bit of background on you as an attorney and how you got into this.
So, I started my legal career at a large firm. I fortunately was laid off. I started my own practice and was working as a, one-man operation. And then in 2001, April of 2001, so almost 23 years ago, a friend and I started a business. We realized there was this issue of inheritances being left behind where people could not find who the owners were. The impetus was my friend's wife was a home healthcare nurse. And one of her clients or patients really took a liking to her and wanted to leave her something. And she told him, sir, thank you very much, but by the rules of the organization, I can't accept any gifts or whatever. And forgot about it. A few years later, gets a call from an attorney saying, we finally tracked you down. Mr. So-and-so left an inheritance to you. And it wasn't a large amount, but left you some money. And we couldn't find you. So that kind of got us started on this idea that there are all these people who are owed money from inheritances, from government agencies, whatnot, and people can't find them. So we started a company, Assets International, with the purpose of uniting people with their money.
What a great concept, and who doesn't want to be reunited with money that they didn't even know was theirs? I mean, exactly. How amazing is that? What a great service and what a niche. I bet you've got some good stories to tell too. So we'll talk about that a little bit. And just really quickly, how would you explain an unclaimed asset? What is the definition of that?
So unclaimed assets or property is a somewhat of a technical term. It's an asset that is in the hands of another party, like a bank account. So you own the bank account, but the bank holds it for you, or stock or insurance policy, something like that, where if at a certain period of time, the owner of the asset doesn't have any activity on that asset, has no communications with the organization, doesn't, using a bank account, for example, doesn't withdraw, doesn't check their balance, doesn't write any checks. after a certain period of time, that asset is deemed unclaimed. And then the institution that has the asset has to turn it over to the states where the person last lived. So every state has this unclaimed property law, and every state has a lot of unclaimed property money. So yeah, that's the answer to what unclaimed property is. My company not only finds people with unclaimed property come to them, and companies and nonprofits that have unclaimed property, but also money sitting in other government treasuries that doesn't fit under the legal definition of unclaimed, but still is, for example, uncashed checks that are issued by government agencies. We get lists from various agencies of checks that they've issued that are just sitting uncashed. And a certain period of time, you have to assume that the owners don't know about it or forgot about it. We also find money sitting in government treasuries from foreclosures, where at auction, the property went for more than what was owed to the creditor that brought the foreclosure action, so that the extra amount goes to the owner of the property, as well as money from probate cases that goes to missing heirs that can't be found.
Wow. Okay. That's pretty amazing. It's just amazing to me that things can go unclaimed like that. And I'm sure a lot of people feel that way as well. Like, how did we miss that? Or, of course, someone could pass away, signifying that is now unclaimed. So the next question for you is, we know that there are two arms to your business. Can you please explain that to us?
Sure. So there's the finding the assets and then going to find the owners. So that includes all the examples I mentioned before, as well as probate cases where executors or trustees will call us and they'll say, I'm handling this estate and I don't know who the heirs are whatsoever, or I can't find a particular heir and I want to get them their inheritance. So it falls in the same basic model. We find, as with the other stuff, where we find money, we go find the owners, we call them and say, hey, great news. We found money for you. Exchange for a percentage. We'll tell you what it is and we'll get it for you. The other part is we also work on behalf of estates where they don't know what the assets are, where someone has passed away and they took that information to the grave with them. And they didn't leave behind any information as to what they owned or where it is. So that's another service that we offer.
Which is amazing. I know, I'm working on something here with an attorney. He's got a family in Sarasota where the father was estranged, and there's children up north out of state, and they have no idea what he has. They have absolutely zero idea. So they obviously have to bring in someone like you to find out where those assets are and what they are. We know that he's got some property. They know that he's got some bank accounts and some various other things, but it's just amazing what people just don't know about. What, your father, brother, sister. It's just amazing that people don't know what each of us has.
Yeah, well, unfortunately, a lot of people are uncomfortable. Two things people are uncomfortable with. One is discussing their finances with people. The other is discussing death. So especially when you combine those two things, that's you get that problem.
Yeah, we understand that too. We're really huge on the estate planning. And obviously, when we sit with families, they really, a lot of times, just don't really have a clue what they have. So we need people like you to help us out. So what assets do people overlook more so than bank accounts? If you could go over that again, if you wouldn't mind.
Bank accounts are big. Stock, mutual funds, insurance policies. Sometimes there's real estate. I'm working on a case now. Actually, I was on a phone call just this morning of a case that we started in 2008, 2009, where it was a couple that first we got involved because they couldn't find the wife's heirs. The husband and wife died pretty much together. I won't get into the gory details of it, and they didn't have children, so the estate split between half goes to her family, half goes to his family. No one knew who her family was, so we tracked down the heirs, and then after when we stepped in originally, they knew about all the accounts and stuff like that. Well, then it turns out they lived in California. Just as we were about to close the estate, we discovered that the couple owned a mobile home lot in Reno, Nevada. So I'm not sure how much, I know you know this, but some of your listeners might not be aware, Probate is normally handled in the state where the person last lived, except for real estate, which is not has a separate proceeding in a different state. So while the main probate was done in California, we had to have a separate what's called ancillary estate opened up in Nevada to deal with the administration of that mobile home lot. Well, so we finally closed that estate about 5-6 years ago. Well, we recently just discovered that they own some timberland in southern Mississippi, about 100 plus acres of land with valuable timber on it. And so now we have to restart, not restart the engine. We have now, we're fielding offers from potential buyers or people who might want to. They might want to just license the forest, the forestry, I guess, for lack of a better term. Part of my ignorance on that issue. And then we'll have to open up an ancillary estate in Mississippi to have that stuff transferred over to the heirs. So real estate is often, especially when it's investment property or second home, that people like, a little kind of getaway place. So those are, when it comes to public employees who work for either public, for the government or for large companies or for nonprofits, often there's going to be a pension or some sort of other thing. So people who are I'd say lower to middle management, working for, like I said, large entities often will all have insurance policies that are bought them by their employers, or pensions or retirement plans.
Wow, there's a lot of different ways to tap into it. That's for sure. A lot of things that people would never consider. And just to kind of let people know, when there's assets that can be inherited, how does that go? If there's a spouse and it goes to children, can you just briefly explain the layers that are involved in that?
Okay, so the first level is what are called administrative expenses. Those are expenses directly related to the preservation of the assets belonging to the estate, as well as the administration of the estate. So, for example, someone who has, like keeping up the house or whatever, or the cost for filing for probate, that's first. Then come usually the creditors are next in line, and then assuming there's anything, then after them comes the those who are inheriting. Now, if there's a will, the will generally will dictate who inherits what. If there's not a will, state law dictates who inherits. And then when you're talking about if the person leaves a spouse and children, that's where it's hard to give one uniform answer, because different states, different laws, depending. First of all, some states just will say the surviving spouse gets everything. Some might say he or she gets 1/3 or 1/2. And also can depend on whether the children of the deceased are also the children of the surviving spouse, because that could also change the equation. If there's no spouse, then the children get everything. If there are no children, you kind of go down the family tree, grandchildren, great grandchildren. If there aren't, then go up to parents. If there are parents, then their children. So the general principles are pretty much the same from state to state, but in terms of when you have a spouse and children, it does vary. So I don't want to give any one uniform answer.
It can get convoluted too, and each state does have their own rules to follow. But now we've got the blended family situations, sometimes multiple marriages, multiple children, joint children. It can get really crazy on that. So, can you give us a success story where Assets International helped someone reclaim a significant amount of assets?
The story I just mentioned is one. We have another one that we just settled a few months ago. A woman in Washington, D.C. had passed away. We tracked it. It was unclaimed property. We tracked down. She wound up having I think it was like two nephews and a niece. Some scattered around the country, and we dug and dug. It turns out when we first started, we thought it was a few $100,000, which is obviously very nice. And it turns out it was almost $4 million when all was said and done.
Wow. Okay, that's really nice. That's really nice. And I think when people hear that, unclaimed assets, they might think it's kind of large on that end. Your favorite question, I know, because you do talk about this on LinkedIn and I have to laugh. Your favorite question, in your experience, what are some common misconceptions people have about unclaimed assets other than large amounts? What would they come to you for, and what kind of crazy questions do they ask you?
About unclaimed property.
Yeah, they'd say, in your experience, what are some misconceptions or common
Well,
misconceptions
the
that
first
people have
misconception
about
is that
unclaimed property
we're
or
holding on to the
assets?
money. The first misconception is that we are holding on to the money. They think that we tell them we found money for them, and that as soon as they sign the contract, I'm going to write them a check the next day. First of all, I
Yeah.
don't have the money, so I am not writing any checks. At least not until the money comes in. Second is that the claims process can take a long time, especially if you have to file for
Okay.
probate. If the person whose money has passed away, and we have to have probate open, that first of all, the probate process alone could take a number of months just to get
Mhm.
a file, depending on which state you're in. Again, every different
Oh,
states and different counties move at different speeds. And then once we file the claim, it's like I said, it could take a long time. Some
mhm.
states approve claims very fast. Some
Sure.
states, let's just say, don't. uh, some
Yeah.
states are not as willing to part with the money, even though it's not theirs. But don't get me started on that.
Yeah. I can't even imagine going, state to state and dealing with their jurisdictions and, and their rules compared
Right,
to
and that's a big
Michigan.
issue with unclaimed property, is even more so than with probate, is every state has its own
Mhm.
set of rules and procedures in terms of what it requires.
Yeah.
Yeah. So
Yeah.
fortunately, we've been doing this for a long time. I have a great team, and we've kind of developed a whole resource library of each state. What do they require? Because
Yes, sir.
one thing we do, we also represent large entities like large corporations and nonprofits that
Okay.
regularly have unclaimed property out there, and they might have it in multiple states. So they'll come to us because they know we have that knowledge and expertise that's not just one state, but broad based. And they know if, for example, Dow Chemical was client of ours. So they regularly had unclaimed property in multiple states. So we knew uh, how to file a claim in Michigan versus how to file a claim in Texas versus how to file a claim in
Hmm.
Pennsylvania. And so it just made things makes it even easier for them to use someone like us that knows all these different, loophole. No, I want to say loopholes, but the little
Sure.
shortcuts and tricks of the trade.
Yeah, and there's a lot to it, I'm sure. And we know that you do the United States, you cover the whole US, and you do international as well. So can you kind of fill us in a little bit about countries that you've worked with? And is it global? Would you cover just about anywhere?
Right. So in terms of unclaimed property, we don't do
Okay.
that much out of the country, mostly because a lot of countries don't have unclaimed property laws, so they don't have money that is readily accessible. One of the things to keep in mind is, when it comes to unclaimed property, is we're relying on Freedom of Information Act requests to
Got
get that
it.
information. So a lot of states, countries, I say, either don't have that unclaimed property mechanism in place, or they don't have a FOIA law that allows us to get that information. Also, in other countries, they're not. Let me back up. U.S. happens to be a very open country when it comes to records, court
Mhm.
records, death certificates, stuff like that. Not nearly. Other countries are not nearly as good as the U.S. is. So
Oh,
most of our focus when we're starting with the model of finding the money and then going to find the people, that's mostly US based. We do some Canada, we've done some Australia. When it comes to the other, where we're starting with a deceased or probate estate and we're going to find the assets, there we just go wherever the trail leads us. And
sure.
obviously, we have to, in any case, whether it's here or international, we do have to kind of assess the profitability of doing it. Recovering something of a certain value in the US might not be as difficult as it is when you start dealing with a cross-border transaction. In terms of finding missing heirs, that we've located heirs in dozens of countries over the years.
Wow. Okay.
Yeah.
Oh, that's pretty amazing
Yeah.
too. I mean, you wouldn't think that it would be something that'd be easy to do from here. So
It is.
that's
For the most part, we don't have to travel that much to do our work.
right.
But have to. But we've located in missing heirs and gotten them their money in various countries: Pakistan, Norway, Israel, Japan, Mexico, Iceland. I can't remember where else.
To make a lot of people happy. That's really great.
Yeah.
It's really great. So one question for you, I have seen other companies like yourselves out there, and I met a couple at the Heckerling event. What kind of sets your business and your team apart from anybody else that's doing this? Is there something different that you offer your clients?
I think we just offer a lot of experience
Hmm.
and knowledge. I'm not going to say that others lack integrity, but we do have that. We're licensed not only as a private investigation firm um, in multiple states, but we have
Hmm.
multiple attorneys, including myself on staff. So we bring a really strong knowledge of the law, and legal issues are always
Hmm.
popping up, not just probate issues, but there could be issues if you're dealing with a couple that got divorced and
Hmm.
figuring out, okay, who's entitled to the assets. And we also know, the procedures of courts and where to find stuff. And fortunately, we have just a great team.
Hmm.
The people who are with us, I think the shortest tenured person that with us now is probably 7 or 8 years at this point. So we have a lot of institutional
Mm.
knowledge
Yeah, that speaks
of a
volumes.
lot of stuff.
Mm.
Yes, I think that's a really big plus for us.
Yeah, that's huge. When you have staff that stays like that, and you know the rules, it just makes
Yeah,
for a
one
win-win.
of the best days of my professional career was when we named our current VP or put her into that role, and we gave her HR responsibilities, which include hiring, and
Yeah.
she's much better than I am. That was definitely a blind spot for me. We have
Mm.
much more stability since she took over the task.
Yeah, better her than you.
Yeah,
Yeah, HR
exactly.
isn't very fun. It can be challenging, that's for sure. So what bit of advice would you give to someone who believes that they have unclaimed assets available? Like, where would they start? What
So
advice would you give them?
typically you start with whatever state, you can Google unclaimed property and then a state name, and it will
Okay.
very quickly take you to that state's unclaimed property agency. Look in whatever state that you've lived in or even done business in.
Mhm.
I would start there, and check every so often. Don't say, "Oh, well, I checked 2 years ago, so that's it," because they're
Mm.
constantly getting money in and constantly updating that list.
Well, that's good to
I'd
know.
say though, if you have unclaimed property and you don't know how to deal with it,
Hmm.
give me a call. Some cases, if it's a quick fix, I might just say, here's what you got to do and do it. Sometimes though, we have had a number of cases where people come to us say, I'm filing this claim and they're not paying it. Can you figure this out for me? And sometimes we'll explain to them that no, there is no there the money will remain unclaimed. It's not claimable for a
Hmm.
variety of reasons. But sometimes we're able to look at that claim and go, okay, we see what the problem is here. We can help you fix it, and then we'll take the claim over and get it paid.
Interesting. So check frequently is the big takeaway on that.
I would say every once a year or something like that.
Okay. Okay. All right. And then how do you and your company ensure the privacy and security of your clients' information?
So, we're very cloud-based. We have a lot of security. We take that extremely seriously because we understand that we are dealing with very sensitive information. So we make sure that we do have some clients who will say, I'm not doing this. So we'll say, okay, if it's especially if it's a state unclaimed property claim, where one thing states do have over the counties and stuff like that, while they have more bureaucracy and more red tape, they also are usually better about being able to just upload documents to
Mm.
straight up into their system. So we have had clients that will say, you know what, if you're that uncomfortable with us, we understand. Here's the information how to upload it yourself. So this way we don't have to handle it for you. And then we don't have possession of it whatsoever. And if that's what make them happy, that's fine.
Yeah, yeah. Well, security is everything, and privacy now. I mean, everything's so
Yeah,
available and out there. So it's
absolutely.
really nice to know that your clients are protected, which is
Yeah.
fantastic. And how can our audience actually contact you? What is the best way for them to find you? Because I know I found you on LinkedIn. I think you found me.
Yeah. So they can, call our office, area code 248-557-4960,
Okay.
is our office. They can email me at mzwick@assetsinternational.com, or pretty easy to find the LinkedIn. I've been there long enough that I have the linkedin.com, I think, slash either Michael Zwick or Michael J. Zwick. So I'm pretty easy. If you put in Michael Zwick, probate or whatever, like I think I'm pretty easy to find.
Yeah, you'll pop up. Yeah. And I just have to tell you, your marketing skills on there are just absolutely incredible. And I love the
Thank you.
way that you reach out to your audience, and it's very, very engaging. It's not like you're marketing and pushing anything on anybody, and you tell the most fantastic stories in the coolest t-shirts. So I think your marketing is just, it's so relatable. It's just so relatable. And
Thank
I'm
you. I
sure you've gotten
appreciate
a
that.
lot of business from that, and you're just approachable, and
Thank you.
it's incredible. Yeah. Anything else that you would like to add, or any information that we may have kind of skipped over, that our audience would like to know?
No, just, like I said, there's so much money out there, and some of it might have your name on it. So, and if you think you might have, and if I can help, I'd love to, do what I can for you.
Yeah, that would be awesome. That would be awesome. So all the information that Michael just gave us for his contact information will be linked below on the YouTube channel. And please reach out to him if you think that you have any missing assets. He'd love to help you. And our businesses overlap. And I really hope that we get to do, excuse me, a little bit of work too in the future. And
Yeah,
looking forward to that. So thank you so very much for joining us today, Michael.
my
It's Michael
pleasure.
Zwick, the Probate PI. Thank you so much for being here. We appreciate all your knowledge and wisdom. Thank you.
Thank you for having
And
me.
we'll have you back soon. And everybody, thanks again for tuning in, and we'll see you on the next one. Take care.